Hello, everybody! So here is Luna Delir again, and I'm here to talk to you about ISTP. I'm always happy to talk about this type, to be honest, because every time that I do, people have weird reactions, like they freak out and they're, oh my god, it's incredible. If you want to go check my ISTP videos, they are the videos where I have the most thumbs down, and it's a disaster. And I find it hilarious because the reason why that happens is that there's all these ISTJs out there that are mistyped because they believe the test they took and they turned out to be quasi-identical type. So there's all these ISTJ types out there that strongly believe they are ISTP, and then when I explain what an ISTP looks like, they do not fit in. So it doesn't. I have to be wrong. That's what happens. I have to be wrong about ISTPs. Luckily, I'm not, guys. So, okay, let's talk about ISTPs. First myth that I want to disrupt about ISTPs, so let's kill some stereotypes, is that they would be funny bunnies. ISTPs are not funny bunnies. Well, they do have a sense of humor and they pull it out when the hell they feel to pull it out. Normally, it will happen when they are completely at ease in an environment and they feel accepted. If you ever met a dualized and possibly integrated ISTP, they look a little bit more feely, a little bit more jolly, a little bit more friendly, expressive, and so on. And that's because of the dualization process, because the ENFJs that is close to them is helping them pull out this weak extroverted feeling. Anyway, they can have in private, in very private situations, they can have this kind of odd moments where they show up with a Santa hat for the Christmas party, but it's pretty much it. There's not much of a funny side to ISTPs. It's probably the most serious type of all. It's not a case if when people start talking about ISTPs, it happens that they pull out Sigmund Freud because he tends to be very rigid. Actually, I've seen in Filatova, I'm not sure what type what Sigmund Freud was. I never typed him, and I don't like. It's not that I have difficulties. I don't like typing scientists or people that studied stuff. It's just my personal thing. I don't enjoy it. It's not fun. So anyway, Filatova, for example, when she gives examples of ISTPs, she says Saddam Hussein, Milosevic, Stalin, and Margaret Thatcher. So these are your ISTPs to give you an idea. We're talking about Milosevic, Saddam Hussein, Stalin, and Margaret Thatcher. We're talking about very strong, very serious, and very, very strict individuals. So that's the ISTP. They are so rigid, so stiff, that they even tend to walk and move stiff. Like they tend to turn around, not really moving their head. They tend to feel very at ease in army environments where there are these strict rules, if they believe in these rules, of course, because the TI is that way. If the TI dominant believes that the rule works and applies to the real world, they're gonna pick it up, and they're gonna make it their rule. If they don't believe it, they're gonna drop it, and there's no way for them to accept it. I will talk more about it later. But anyway, let's disrupt this thing that ISTPs would be funny, would be playful, would be tricksters, and so on. They are the right opposite of that thing. They're also probably the utmost respectful type that there is, and they value respect to no end. So they will always respect you, they will always be respectful towards you, and that's that high TI. If INTPs, on the other hand, with extrovert intuition, tend to be a little bit more playful, you can look at Bill Nye, for example. ISTPs instead are funny only and exclusively in familiar environments where they are 100% sure that they are well accepted. So this to close the parenthesis and to disrupt some stereotypes about ISTP. Moving on, let's talk about the functions. So ISTP, dominant TI, structure, correctness, categorization, building systems. This is what an ISTP is made of. That's the main modality of an ISTP. Rules, structure, systems. That's TI in the leading position. It's people that live with a strong systematization of the world. They have basically a theory about everything, how everything should work and how everything works. When we talk about TIFE, TFI in the dominant position, in socionics we talk about rationals. And these rationals tend to look at things according to what they should be like, rather than what they are like. So ISTP, dominant TI, they will always follow this systematization, this system of rules that they have in their mind about how the world should work according to them or according to this system. And they abide to it. And they also try to have everybody around them abide by these rules. They are called the policemen for this reason, but they get some help for that from extroverted sensing, of course, which I will explain in a moment. I want to finish about TI dominant. The peculiarity of ISTPs, which means that as a TI dominant, as one of the two TI dominants, if INTPs are focused on theories of any form, studying abstract concepts, they revolve in the realm of science, literally. ISTPs instead, with extroverted sensing, tend to look at concrete reality, and their TI is the most social of all TIs. So this TI is used to categorize people, to categorize individuals, and to make sense of people's behavior. Their dual is the ENFJ, which is the type that most needs people to make sense of what they're doing. That's a need of the ENFJ. They need to know that what they're doing makes sense. And the ISTP is focused exactly on this activity, which is making sense of what people are doing. I would want to point out that TI dominant types, I'm looking a little bit into Augusta's ideas of concepts of love in the types. I don't always completely agree, but in general, I see that some things are spot on. And this thing specifically about TI dominance, I totally agree with. They tend to be the kind of love Analita. or I don't know how the pronunciation is in English. Anyway, I will write the definition below in the comment section, in the list, as always. Anyway, analytic kind of love. This kind of love is a focus on making sense of the attitudes and behavior of the partner. For ISTPs, this thing, like I said, is more pronounced than it is in INTPs. INTPs have more of a superficial relationship to this thing. If an INTP relates to that only towards that person that they care about, the ISTP instead tends to do it also with the mother, father, and entourage in general, people that are close to them. With the loved one, as far as I have seen, they have a manic attitude towards categorizing their beloved one. Every single move the beloved one makes, they need to know exactly where it's positioned in their system, and the beloved person has to fit in the system constantly. So they will fall in love, for example, for people that tend to have a predictable, so to speak, but anyway, possible to categorize behavior that anyway is partially unpredictable and constantly changing. And this is ISTP's TI. Then we pass to extroverted sensing. Extroverted sensing instead in ISTPs is a very administrative function. It's very administration oriented. There are some examples out there, for example, in Stratiskaya, about how this extroverted sensing works in the type Maxime, which is our ISTP. Personally, as far as I have seen, ISTP is that kind of person that goes to the reception at the hotel. The person on the other side is having issues dealing with the program, using the computer program and doing the things that they have to do because maybe it's something new or they're not very sure about what they're doing. The ISTP will very patiently stand there and inadvertently give advice on how to proceed in what they should be doing. And the ISTP will patiently stay there until the problem is completely solved, so that anybody else coming after them will not meet that kind of problem. That's where an ISTP's extroverted sensing is applied. And that's how ISTPs use extroverted sensing in administration fields. This type is very adapted to making rules and having them followed. Like I said at the beginning, they are considered the policemen of the sociotypes or MBTI rows. They are the policemen. They're not only mechanics, but they're also policemen, meaning that when they see a rule and they believe in that system of rules, they want these rules applied exactly as the rules are written. And they do not allow for any exception. That's the rule. That's how the rule is applied. And here is where INFJs sometimes try to look like ISTPs with TI mobilized. Anyway, ISTP, strong extroverted sensing, TI leading, this need to have rules respected. This is the system. These are the rules. So this is how the system works. This is what you're supposed to be doing. You're not doing it. You're trespassing your route. You're being punished. And that's another area in which ENFJs tend to need help. They tend to need help in this area because they have very weak extroverted sensing, plus this strong extroverted feeling, which is a very social function. They tend to be a little bit afraid. It looks like, at least, I'm not sure about that, and maybe ENFJs can confirm that. They look like they're a little bit afraid to lose their face if they apply too much extroverted sensing. They don't want to hurt people. They don't want to pass for the boogeyman, for example. Well, the ISTP is the type that backs up the ENFJ and will have no problem looking like the boogeyman, or being the policeman, or looking like the evil guy that doesn't allow anything. That's your ISTP of the situation. Because of this sense of roles, exactly. Where are the valued weaknesses of ISTPs? Introverted intuition. It means that they value coherence to an extreme. The ISTP is the kind of type that will always repeat the same things, always do the same things, always say the same things, because they are afraid to fall out of that coherence. So they try to stick to this coherence. If you tell them something that they consider interesting and useful, they're going to take notes, because they're going to be afraid to forget about it, and they're going to jot it down. They pass for a type that has a strong memory, but what actually happens is that they have everything written down. Anyway, that's another trait. What else can I say about an I mobilized? An I mobilized is a sense of wholeness, internal peace. So ISTPs tend to be the most isolated of all types. So they do not like to stay among people, probably even more so than an INTJ. Why? Because the INTJ has mobilized the introverted feeling, which is the relational feeling, which is the ethics of relationships, which the INTJ wants to develop. So to an extent, the INTJ is going to seek social interaction. Whereas the ISTP, who has role introverted feeling, so it's hidden behind that introverted thinking, is going to grow tired very quickly of social interaction. They're going to accept it, they're going to partially even seek it, but after 20-30 minutes, which is more or less the amount of time that we can use our role function, they're going to grow tired of interaction. And interaction for an ISTP also disrupts and disturbs this internal wholeness, this internal harmony, internal peace that they strive so much to achieve. So they tend to grow aggressive very easily. If you contradict them, some people say that I, as an INFJ, tend to be very strict about not being contradicted. Well, try to contradict an ISTP and you're going to get your nose punched if possible. Well, they're not particularly violent. They resort to extroverted sensing only in extreme situations and only for self-defense. They're not violent types. The ESTP can resort to extroverted sensing. The ISTP, very unlikely. Anyway, it was just a mere joke. Do not take it literally that they would punch your nose. It was just a metaphor. But they're going to become extremely aggressive, and that's one of those circumstances in which they're going to use that extroverted sensing, and possibly they're going to cover it with a flow of logic that is going to break your bones about how stupid you acted, and why your theory is so stupid, and why it doesn't work, and why it doesn't make sense. They're going to destroy every single word you said. That's an ISTP when you contradict them. So what can they do? What can ISTPs do to preserve this internal state of wholeness, of inner calm? The suggestion is to stay the more possible into isolation, to keep isolated, in touch with people that you guys have close, but substantially isolated. Doesn't mean to become a hermit or not to talk to people. Just spending the whole day in an MBTI forum, for example, is not going to be good for your self-esteem. Spending a lot of time among people out in the crowd is not going to be good for your self-esteem. Take time alone, spend those 30 minutes that your FI allows you. Try to spend time with people, but no, do not exceed and keep your time. Take your time. The ISTP is, like I said, a very solitary type. Uh, they are often resembled with the renegades, and that's very spot on in my opinion. Anyway, very isolated type, and they need this isolation. Weak extroverted feeling, inferior extroverted feeling, what does that mean? That means that they highly appreciate people that welcome them, people that welcome them with a smile, people that treat them well. Like, for example, the aunt that at Christmas walks up to the ISTP, kisses the ISTP forehead, and wishes him Merry Christmas with a hug is going to be probably to be the ISTP's favorite aunt ever. Another ISTP weakness: tell them that you hate them with conviction and you lose the ISTP forever. This works also for INTPs. They take negative moods and negative feelings expressed externally very, very at heart. So they tend to have strong reactions to this thing. Maybe in the ISTP case, it's a little bit more subdued and a little bit more controlled than in the case of the INTP, because weak extroverted sensing doesn't allow the expression of this anger and negativity so explicitly, whereas extroverted sensing in the auxiliary position, extroverted sensing valued, allows for more acceptance towards aggression, towards these um, exponential behaviors, and therefore the ISTP is a little bit stronger in this sense than the INTP. But anyway, do not exceed, even if you are an ENFJ, because at some point your ISTP, sorry, could be truly offended, and it's a type that takes it not very bad, but it can take them days, if not weeks, to recover. This for non-dualized ISTPs, of course. I'm talking about non-dualized ISTPs because the dualized ISTP has more of a backbone in this sense, and they can take pretty much a lot of things. They will take it at heart anyway. They will throw it back at you as soon as they have an occasion. They will keep it there, and it will stove there and cook there, and it will bother them. But they can live with you regardless without holding a grudge against you. They will only keep memory of this thing you said to test if it's actually true. That's a dualized ISTP, and they often will let go without even telling you anything. Um, I know a dualized ISTP. That's why I'm so informed. I know both kinds of ISTP. This is a type where I'm particularly strong. Anyway, these were the valid functions of ISTP. Quick thing about a quick view of three of the invalid functions, because you know that I don't go in depth into the vulnerable function. Anyway, ignored extroverted thinking means that they tend to ignore facts, literally. If the ISTP believes something and facts say the opposite, they can consider facts of minor importance. Another thing of TE ignoring is that the ISTP is perfectly capable of finding facts supporting any kind of thesis they are bringing. And these facts that they bring, these sources, are going to be reliable sources. If there was an article written 30 years ago from a very reliable source that is still applied, even if that article has been dismissed, they are going to find it. They're very good at finding sources to back up their thesis. And this is a double-edged sword because on one side it helps them build very strong arguments. On the other hand, though, it also can lead the ISTP into fooling themselves about being right about things they're not right about. It doesn't happen often because the ISTP doesn't accept things coming from outside so easily. It's one of the types that is the most difficult to persuade about someone else being right about something. So it's very difficult that they will incorporate anything that they haven't checked manically into the smallest detail. Being a sensory type, they're also very slow looking into things. They tend to be very precise. Plus they have, and we pass here to another function, this demonstrative introverted sensing, which wants things to be very precise, very spot on, looking at details. The ISTP is the type that tends to be bogged down by details. They tend to get locked into this detail and they need to this Rubik cube of details and they need to fix it. Otherwise, they're not going to accept it as correct. That's the ISTP. So it's very difficult that the ISTP is ever going to be wrong. Plus, like we said, an I mobilized makes them want to be coherent. So they're going to be one of those people that when you meet them, they're going to look like they're too right to be true. Another thing about introverted sensing demonstrative that I learned recently is that it works only for others. That's the most mind-blowing things I ever came across in the MBTI. This introverted sensing demonstrative only works for other people. The introverted sensing demonstrative person is going to be able to take care of their appearance only and exclusively if someone else, their significant other, for example, needs them to look good for their personal self-esteem, for example. The ISTP is going to use introverted sensing only if his or her ENFJ needs introverted sensing. So if there is this need for the ENFJ that the ISTP is healthy. If the ENFJ needs that the ISTP cooks for them, then the ISTP is going to be able to tap into introverted sensing and use introverted sensing. Without this external input, the ISTP tends to look like an intuitive, so to speak, because they don't have the ability to tap into this introverted sensing. They don't do it. Even if they are sick or they need that introverted sensing, unless they get this boost from outside, they have strong difficulties applying introverted sensing. They can achieve it, but they will not use it. They will not be able to use it. That was really mind-blowing, but I've seen it in the real world. It is true. It's mind-blowingly true. So this is how introverted sensing works. Demonstrative function, again, unvalued, and we do not see it in MBTI. We find it in socionics. Last function, we've seen it superficially, introverted feeling role function. This means that ISTPs, to an extent, want to interact with people, learn to interact with others, be among others, and so on. But they also grow tired of that very, very quickly. And they have strong difficulties applying these social rules of interaction that are necessary, like not say things a specific way, because of that they tend to be very straightforward individuals. They aim directly to what they want to say. So when they are in a social environment, they try to be a little bit more polite. They give this FI facade, very, very basic, very, very rough FI facade, but they grow tired very quickly of that. And that's also another reason why they need to stay in isolation, why they need to take a break. Even more so ESTPs with vulnerable introverted feeling. This is an indirect reference to someone that said something one day. Anyway, yeah, intra-quadra relationships tend to be far easier for ISTPs. Intra-quadra meaning interacting with ENFJs, ESTPs, and INFJs is going to be a little bit easier for ISTPs. As you can imagine, I will skip the part of the types of with which ISTPs get along, but I want to open a parenthesis about Enneagrams, because this is one of the most interesting types that I came across in matters of Enneagram. I personally spotted 3 Enneagrams that can apply to this specific type, and they are connected. 2 are connected to the mobilize function. 1 is connected to the role function. So we have Enneagram 3, that is more a matter of a game between extroverted sensing and introverted intuition, because the ISTP, being extroverted sensing oh my god, extroverted sensing auxiliary, they have the ability to create styles, to create appearances, to create an image of themselves, and that's an Enneagram 3 thing. And they do so because they seek this acceptance, this wholeness, this sense of belonging in some way, which is also an Enneagram 3 thing. The other Enneagram is Enneagram 9, which is directly connected to introverted intuition mobilized, introverted intuition tertiary, and this is because Enneagram 9 seeks internal wholeness, Enneagram 9 seeks internal peace, Enneagram 9 seeks stability, which is typical of the TI-NI axis when NI is in the mobilized position. TI looks for stability, NI looks for this internal wholeness. So this is a very likely Enneagram also for ISTPs. The last one is a very curious type, and it's Enneagram 4. Enneagram 4 has this sense of not fitting in, not being right, not being adapted, not being like everybody else. So that's an Enneagram 4. And that's exactly how FI role makes an ISTP feel. They feel like they cannot fit in with others because they do not have this ability to communicate with others the way others communicate. And they also kind of reject this thing. So they feel they're different. And if they grow up in a difficult environment at home where one of the parents is particularly absent or has some issue of some sort, they can become Enneagram 4s. They can be Enneagram 4s. So these are the Enneagram types that can apply to an ISTP. What else can I say about this type? Duality. Duality with the ISTP means that they need someone to make them feel loved and accepted. That's basically what ISTPs need. Extroverted feeling has this ability of making people feel emotionally part of something, emotionally accepted. Their personal contribution is very odd, and it's also connected to the Analita love I was mentioning before. And that they express their love by categorizing the beloved person. Everything the beloved person does, they tend to categorize, and they tend to issue. I like the way Galenko puts it, that they tend to express these TI statements like something should be done or there's need to work harder about something, and the ENFJ needs this kind of input. So this is pretty much everything I have about this type. I think I will close this here. I'm waiting for the thumbs down. Okay, so I will talk to you soon. Bye.